Bonjour Français 3, j'espère que vous allez bien. Ce que je vais faire aujourd'hui, ça c'est de réviser les phrases pour votre warm-up que nous avons fait la dernière fois. Alors, je veux les réviser avec les compléments d'objets indirects. Alors, so for today, I want to review the sentences that you had for your warm-up last time, having to do with indirect object pronouns, or as we call them in French, complément d'objet indirect. So I know it can be a little tricky, but if you just work through them and kind of think about it logically and remember a couple rules, you should be fine. So let's go over these sentences. I've tried to structure them how they were written for you with things underlined and whatnot. So I'm just going to write them right below here. And then this one's over here. So for number one, they are going to buy it. We're talking about indirect and direct object pronouns. Remember, direct object pronouns are directly receiving the action of the verb. What are they going to buy? They're going to buy it. It's directly receiving the action. So it's a direct object, okay? When we are replacing that, it either goes, if there's one verb, in front of the verb, if there's two verbs, an infinitive and a conjugate form, in between them. So if we're taking a look at this one, I believe I showed you in the examples last time, but we're going to start with they, and I don't give you which gender, so we'll say elle. Right? So they are going to buy it. So we have two verbs here that we're going to need to use. Are going, which is aller in the present tense, so vont. And then acheter is our other verb, so we have two, so we know our pronoun is going to go in between. So here we have it, and I told you that it was masculine. So if it's masculine, it's le. But acheter begins with an A, so I have to do L apostrophe. So elles vont l'acheter. They are going to buy it. It is not the same as it is in English, right? Our direct object in English would come after both of them. In French, it either comes before or between. So if you translate it literally, they are going it to buy, which to us doesn't make sense, but in French, it makes sense. Elles vont l'acheter. They are going to buy it. So that's a direct object pronoun. I believe the rest of them are indirect object pronouns. Number two, he gave him a present. For this one, I have underlined him, right? Offrir is one of those verbs that usually follows with the preposition a. So when that preposition a is either present or implied with a verb, you're going to use indirect. So they gave it to him, right? We wouldn't say in English, he gave to him a present. That would sound a little odd. But in French, that is how it would go. So what you would want to say for this one, you start with your subject. In this case, he. So il. Now, we're in passé composé. It's not he gives him a present, it's he gave him a present. So it has to be in passé composé. So when we talk about our indirect object pronouns, it's either lui or leur when we're talking about two people. Okay? If it's singular or plural. It is just to him, so it is singular. So I would use lui, L-U-I, which is different than Louis, which is a name, lui. Il lui then gave offert un cadeau. So he gave to him a present. If we translated it literally, he to him gave a present, which again would not be right to us, but in French, the word order is switched. Okay? Bon. Now, when we look at these sentences, the trickiest part is going to be deciding whether it's direct or indirect, because now you have both of them. You could have both of them in a sentence. For example, if you wanted to say he gave it to him, there's a word order that you would use, which we'll get into later, but just to put it out there, il lui a offert un. So that would be he gave it to him, and you would eliminate the gift part. and you would just have two pronouns there. We're not there yet, just something to be aware of. Next one. Isabel gave them a spatula. So again, we have donner, which is like offrir. So it's going to necessitate the preposition a after it. So Isabel is our subject, bien sûr. And again, we have past tense. Gave to them. So we know it's plural because it's them. So we're going to use the plural indirect object, which is leur, to them. Then take our verb in the passé composé, a donné une spatule, which is Isabel gave them a spatula. Plural indirect object, le passé composé. When it's passé composé, yes, you have two verbs, but since it's a compound verb tense, these are a package deal. They travel together. So it comes before both of them. If it's a verb and an infinitive, that's when it goes between. Okay? The next one is Mark asked me a question, and then I gave you the verb poser to use. So again, poser is like donner and offrir. So you're going to assume that it is a preposition following it, because in French it would be Mark asked to me a question. We don't say that in English, but it's kind of implied in French. So start with my subject, which is Marc. Now, to me is me. So it's basically the same word, just pronounced different. But again, it's in the past. There's an ed on the end, right? So asked. So we put our pronoun in, which is me, then poser in the passé composé, une question. So Mark asked me a question. Now, grammatically, we're almost there, but we have an E and an A. So just like every other thing in French, the E has to disappear and you join them with an apostrophe. So instead of Marc me a posé, which would not work, Marc m'a posé une question. Okay. Last one. I'm going to angle me here. Ooh. Bon. That light is not great. Okay. So they spoke to us yesterday. And then I give you they as being masculine. So il. Now we have to us, which is another indirect object pronoun. There's that preposition too. Here, it's not implied with the verb because you have the to us. You would say he spoke to me. He spoke to us. He spoke to you. So you know that to is in there, that preposition a. So il, we replace to us with nous, and then spoke in passé composé. On parlait hier. So they spoke to us yesterday. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a sense of how these work a little bit. We will definitely be going over them more when you return. This is something we'll practice. This is a way to make your French sound better because you don't have to repeat and be redundant about things. What did you give him? Did you give him a present? Yes, I gave it to him. You can kind of cut that out and make it a pronoun. Okay? Bon, à bientôt. Amusez-vous bien. Bon week-end. Et à l'heure.